Hello and welcome. Now we have completed up till angiogenesis in our chapter neoplasia and we will be studying further. Angiogenesis is given in very limited part in the Robbins and some extra part about angiogenesis will be added that I have referred from multiple sources to complete this topic. So now we can continue. Okay, so first we'll do the Robbins part. So now to understand what is angiogenesis, we all know angiogenesis means new blood vessel formation. But why is it required? So the Robbins says that a solid tumor possesses, in spite of having all the genetic mutations that are required to form newer, it will never be able to be enlarged and take full size. It only can take full size and reach of size that is more than 2 mm. It can only reach the size of more than 2 mm if angiogenesis will develop. So, it is defined as even if the solid tumor possesses all the genetic aberrations that are required for malignant transformation, it cannot enlarge beyond 1 to 2 mm in its diameter unless it has a capacity to induce angiogenesis. So what is this angiogenesis? New blood vessel formation. Because every tumor cell will be needing oxygen, will be needing nutrient that can only diffuse up to 2 mm. Beyond that, a new generation of blood vessel is required. So, but is this angiogenesis only happening in the tumor? No. So it is not only happening in the tumor, it happens in a normal body as well. It happens in especially in chronic ischemia condition. So whenever there is reduced oxygen, our body senses that and it releases hypoxia inducing factor alpha that stimulates. So that will be discussed further in how this hypoxia inducing factor is leading to angiogenesis in the tumor. Okay, so then there is neoangiogenesis. Neoangiogenesis is the similar term as angiogenesis. It is new blood vessel formation. Okay, so it that tumor cells are leading to angiogenesis, but there is another thing also that angiogenesis is also leading to further growth of the tumors. So both things are related. So how is that the new vascularization is leading to growth of tumor? The new vascularization supplies the nutrient and oxygen. One is the basic needs it is providing, that is the nutrition and oxygen, but apart from that the proliferating endothelial cells are also secreting insulin like growth factor and PDGF that are stimulating the growth of tumors. Now these blood vessels are not very systematically being grown, but rather it will be these blood vessels will be very leaky, dilated and will be haphazard in pattern. Okay, so now why is this angiogenesis and how is it possible for this angiogenesis to develop now? This angiogenesis, normally in our body there is a very controlled mechanisms because there are anti-angiogenic and angiogenic that factors that are keeping it in control. So angiogenesis is they have promoters and they have inhibitors. So when the tumor will be there, this ratio of the inhibitors and promoters will be disturbed. So suppose a tumor is having all the mutations, it is having proto-oncogene mutation, tumor suppressor gene mutations, but till the time angiogenic switch, so angiogenesis is not happening, this tumor will be there, will grow up to 2 mm size and then it will be necrosed and it will die off. So any tumor, solid tumors cannot grow until unless angiogenic switch is stimulated. So how is this that the molecular basis of angiogenesis switch involves increase in local production of angiogenic factors and loss of angiogenic inhibitors. So we can understand this. The source of these factors are the tumor cells. So these angiogenic factors, that the this ratio disturbance is caused due to the angiogenic factors that are being secreted from tumor cells, from infiltrating inflammatory cells, from the tumor associated stromal cells and the extracellular matrix. So it is secreted from 4 places where tumor cells, infiltrating inflammatory cells, tumor associated stromal cells and extracellular matrix. So what has happened now? Because the tumor is growing and some part of it is now not getting oxygen, this is sensed due to lack of oxygen. and hypoxia stabilizing factor. There is a hypoxia stabilizing factor 1 alpha that will sense the oxygen, reduced oxygen, and so it will cause the transcription factor. So this hypoxia stabilizing factor 1 alpha and oxygen sensitive transcription factor, so what it will do, it will disturb the ratio of the pro-angiogenic and anti-angiogenic. Now anti-angiogenic will reduce and pro-angiogenic factors will increase. This hypoxia stabilizing HIF 1 alpha or hypoxia inducing factor 1 alpha will cause the increased transcription of the VEGF and the fibroblast growth factor. This will create an angiogenic gradient and this will stimulate the proliferation of the endothelial cells and guide the growth of new blood vessels. So this is the one mechanism by which the new blood vessels are formed. Then the second mechanism by which the blood vessels are formed will be whenever there will be mutation in tumor suppressor genes and oncogenes that will induce angiogenesis. How it will induce? When in the normal condition there is P53, it stimulates the expression of anti-angiogenic molecules, that is thrombospondin 1. So this anti-angiogenic molecule will keep the process of angiogenesis in control and will not lead to new blood vessel formation. Whenever there will be mutation in P53, this anti-angiogenic factor thrombospondin 1 will reduce and hence the angiogenic factors will take over. So it is written, it will repress the expression of pro-angiogenic molecules such as VEGF. So VEGF will increase, and as it is, I have already told, the loss of P53 will remove all checkpoint and alter the tumor cell metabolism, but also provides permissive environment for angiogenesis. So whenever there will be P53 mutation, this will there will be increase in pro-angiogenic factors like VEGF and suppression of anti-angiogenic factors like thrombospondin 2. And then conversely, if there is a gain of function mutation in RAS and MYC, this will upregulate the production of VEGF. Then there is third mechanism. Then the third mechanism is due to the proteases, which may be elaborated by either tumor cells or the stromal cells. Also, the local balance of angiogenic and anti-angiogenic factors are also maintained by these proteases. These are secreted from either the tumor cells or the stromal cells. Many proteases releases beta fibroblast growth factors from the extracellular matrix, which constitute a storage site for this factor. So this is stored in extracellular matrix. So these proteases are causing the release of beta fibroblast growth factor from this extracellular matrix, while other proteases release anti-angiogenic factors such as angiostatin, endostatin through proteolytic cleavage of plasminogen, collagen respectively. So it's not that all proteases are releasing pro-angiogenic factors. Some proteases also release anti-angiogenic factors. These anti-angiogenic factors are angiostatin and endostatin. These both are formed by proteolytic cleavage of the plasminogen and collagen respectively. So this VEGF inhibitors are now being used to prevent the development of malignancies. So there is one antibody that is we are using is bevacizumab. This is a monoclonal antibody that neutralizes the activity of VEGF, and it is being used in multiple malignancies, but it is very costly, in financially very costly, and still it is not able to completely cure the tumors. So what is the factor that it is not still being able to cure? That there are multiple escape routes to the pathway that still needs to be understood so that better treatment can be developed for this. So in the next part we will be studying from Robbins is not being detailed, covering angiogenesis in detail. So we will discuss some more new points in the presentation. So the key points that Robbins is missing are: what is the difference between angiogenesis, and vasculogenesis. So angiogenesis is this new process that we are seeing, the development of new blood vessels that occurs especially in our body whenever there is chronic ischemic conditions, so that there is no tissue organ that is living in hypoxia. So for this, it induces the hypoxia inducing factor. So this is where we have also studied the VHL syndrome, where this mechanism is disrupted that leads to renal cell carcinoma and hemangioblastomas. And also this hemangiogenesis is a very normal process, and it is very much required to prevent multiple parts of body from going into chronic hypoxia, like the one big example that we have seen in the patients with chronic angina, where if there is person is having a chronic angina, the patient is less likely to suffer ischemia, because now new blood vessels have formed, so it will not lead to ischemia, and this new blood vessels are like escape mechanism from preventing the ischemia. Whereas vasculogenesis is happening in the embryonic life, when there is a vascular assembly, so that is referred for a embryonic life vascular assembly. Whereas angiogenesis is when a new blood vessel is developing in the for the compensation for hypoxia. Then what are angioblasts and what is its difference from hemangioblasts? So the hemangioblasts are the precursor. Both are blasts, that means both are stem cells. But hemangioblasts are precursors that can give rise to blood vessels as well as hematopoietic blood cells. So these can give rise to both the components, whereas angioblasts give rise to the blood vessels. Then we have studied there are multiple factors that are influencing the development of blood vessels. So these factors are VEGF beta, FGF, angiopoietin, FGF. So how these are regulating the development of blood vessels? So to understand this, we will see that so there is a blood vessel, there is endothelial lining, then there are also pericytes along, and some large blood vessels will also have smooth muscles around them, and then there is a tumor. So whenever there is some part of this tumor that is undergoing hypoxia, so this will lead to increase in 2 alpha. So this is further leading to, as we have also studied, VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor, and this will lead to development of sprouting of the blood vessels towards the tumor. So this is having two parts. One part is called the tip, that is developing towards the tumor, and the other part, the part that is developing from the lower end, is known as the stalk. So now we will understand how this VEGF is leading to development of the tip and the stalk. So what is happening is, there is this tip cell, and then there is another cell. This tip cell is called the stalk cell. So as we have seen in this is the tip cell and there is the stalk cells. Okay, so what is happening? There is a tip cell, so it is having a receptor. This tip cell is having a receptor, and this receptor is the VEGF receptor, and this is the, if VEGF binds to this receptor, what will this lead to? It will cause, there is one ligand on this cell, this is called as delta-like ligand. These are of multiple types. These can be 1, 2, 3, 4, or they can be jagged ligands. These are also 1 and 2. So these ligands are bound here to the so-called notch receptors. So this will cause, interaction with this notch receptor will lead to proteolytic cleavage and then transcription of the angiogenic factors, and this will lead to development of and this will lead to angiogenesis. So this pathway is called the Notch pathway. This is very important for development of new blood vessels. Okay, so these are some important points that are to be that are covered and that are discussed under the angiogenesis. So now we can compile the complete angiogenesis. As to what is angiogenesis, the development of new blood vessels. So tumor cells cannot grow beyond 2 mm if new blood vessels are not formed. So then what is difference between angiogenesis and vasculogenesis? Vasculogenesis is happening in the embryonic life and the vascular assembly is happening there. Then how is this that normally in our body angiogenesis is controlled? Angiogenesis is controlled by the anti-angiogenic and angiogenic. So anti-angiogenic is the P53 till it is normal in our body. It will cause the expression of anti-angiogenic factor, that is thrombospondin 2, and this will suppress the angiogenesis. But it can be stimulated in body. How? Whenever there will be hypoxia. So there is hypoxia inducing factor 1 alpha. Whenever there will be hypoxia in the tissues, this will stimulate the pro-angiogenic factors like vascular endothelial growth factor and beta fibroblast growth factor. Apart from these, proteases that's also controlling, although proteases are controlling anti-angiogenic as well as angiogenic factors. So, and recently we are having one drug against this VEGF. This drug is ibasizumab. Okay, so this is it, and thank you so much for watching, and please do like and subscribe so that you can get notifications for next videos. Thank you.